Welcome, I'm Bivald, a free-to-play endgame player in Raid Shadow Legends. Today is going to be a short video, and I apologise that it's a few days late, but I've been very busy in real life, and this is the earliest I was able to calculate the schedule, work out what the plan is, record the video, and get it out to you. Hopefully not too late for the majority of you to still have a benefit from it. So obviously this is Bivald the Thorn, or Bivald of the Thorn, fragment fusion that we've got going on right now. And I think this champion could be interesting, particularly if the game evolves in certain directions. I do think the champion will be great for faction wars if you're struggling for crowd control. For me, the Astralon fusion unlocked beating Sacred Order, but that fusion was a long time ago. So for any players who didn't get him and can't beat that content, this is a great fusion and you shouldn't miss it. I think he'll be a hard carry for Sacred Order faction wars. I also think the A2 is Hydra viable as it has a self-strengthen and AoE leech. Even more so if they, in the future, add or change any of the heads such that they can be provoked, then this A2 could be very strong in Hydra. We don't yet know whether that will be the case, but there's always a possibility. And obviously having that self-strengthen means that you have an additional buff on Bivald versus the rest of the team if you're not bringing a AoE strengthen champion with him. And having that additional buff means that he can be a mischief tank. So there's options depending on how the game evolves that this champion could be very strong. I feel like the kit has enough synergy and enough logic within it that the champion could be strong. Also, HP secret rooms, he'll be great for that as well. The A1 has a provoke and a small heal. I don't think the heal's gonna do that much. It's not going to be the most interesting part of the kit, but 50% provoke on a single target's not bad. It's not, for me, it's not really high enough to make him a viable magma tank. At least not a soul tank. But if you had two provoke champions and you were progressing through the game, you could use Bivald and another, say potentially Visix or Seeker or even Sentinel. There's a whole number of different champions you could use. But the idea there being if you don't have one that can maintain provoke at nearly 100%, you could use Bivald and another. And you'll always benefit. Whoever has the provoke on magma will benefit from Bivald's passive. So I think he's a really good progression champion for beating magma, but not really an endgame champion for magma. And obviously, as we mentioned with the A2, the combination of provoke, leech, and strengthen I think will be really good for wave control and could, in theory, be an interesting ability for Hydra in the future. And then the A3 is just a really solid overall heal and shield mechanic, which again could be useful in Hydra, as we know that sustain is an important aspect. Also very strong for wave content. I know Hell Hades has showcased him as being a highly viable spider tank for progression again. So, there's a synergy in his kit. He has provokes, he has heals, he has a nice debuff in Leech for adding additional sustain, and a nice passive for damage reduction, although it's going to be very situational. So unlike the guaranteed champion we had on Ancients not that long ago, who I said the kit seemed to be at odds with itself. It was kind of counterintuitive. It didn't synergize well with itself. I feel like Bivald's kit, it has a very thematic approach, and as a consequence, I think you'll always be able to find uses for him. Right then, that's a brief summary of the champion. Let's move on to the plan itself. There's a couple of things that I really want to mention. For me, I am skipping the champion chase. And basically, I've decided that if I wanted to do the champion chase, I'd need to get 15 fragments from there and 5 fragments from the summon rush. And to do that would likely require around 10 to 15 sacreds, and most likely return me 1 legendary tome and no chickens. I'd probably get, say, 1 legendary out of it. If my RNG was phenomenal, maybe 2, but probably not. Whereas if I do the summon rush, I think most likely 7 sacreds would be enough to get the 20 fragments. And if I did 15 sacreds, I would get all the fragments required, plus most likely 3, possibly 4 legendary books, and 2 or 3 chickens. So for me, the total return is more interesting on the summon rush. That said, I've actually pulled so many mystery shards to do the champion training already, I might end up getting 5 fragments from the champion chase anyway. So, that could even give me more flexibility. If I did get 5 from the champion chase, I would most likely think about skipping the champion training and getting 5 from the champion chase. The champion training tournament that comes at the end of the event, the end of the fusion. Now, for me, I'm not particularly excited about this champion training because typically the tournaments don't have legendary tomes. So I would not anticipate them putting anything interesting as a final reward in this champion training tournament. It also overlaps with Spider and CvC. So for me, if I could skip that and just go hard and Fire Knight Spider and then focus my resources on CvC and not have to worry about the champion training, that would be actually optimal. But we'll see how if I can get the 5 fragments from the champion chase with putting as minimal resources in as possible. The next thing I really wanted to mention is the Dungeon Diver 1. The number of points that they have put to requiring people to get on DD1 is ridiculous. When I first opened it up, I was like, that is really not very nice to players. So we're right at time of recording. We have 4.5 hours remaining. I've nearly finished the event now, but I haven't actually even finished it. You can see here in the event, I only needed like another 50 points now, but it was a real grind. To ask people to get 3,350 points in a 3-day event in Dungeon Divers is really, really mean. It's about 4,800 energy in dungeon farming, or slightly more if you're combining with champion training. So the approach I took for this was I did Dragon the first 2 days. I completed the Dragon event, but I actually stopped at around 2,800 points. I decided I wouldn't push any further than that, although we could have pushed further and done the Dungeon Divers through Dragon. I anticipated that the champion training would most likely, because it was a longer event and it's on the event side rather than the tournament side, it had a very high probability chance of having a legendary tome. So since the champion training dropped on Saturday, both yesterday and today, I've put all my focus on champion training because I will be getting not just the legendary tome, but the 6-star legendary ore as well. And ideally, I want to complete the majority of it before Ice Golem drops. So I've got to do quite a lot more today on this champion training. Probably try today on Sunday, get to around 10,000, and then slowly kind of creep up the points even whilst I'm doing Ice Golem. And then on the Wednesday, I'll finish whatever's required on champion training. But I'll manage the points between Ice Golem and champion training over the next few days and make sure that I'm able to complete both. But I personally really like to put my resources into these kind of champion training events where you've got some big ticket rewards, getting an epic tome, a legendary tome, and a 6-star legendary chaos, or for the additional 5,000 points over the final 10 fragments. for me, that's 100% worth doing. Even if the fragments weren't in this slot, I would probably still be going for this, as I typically do. So other than the kind of relatively cancerous Dungeon Divers one, and the debate about whether to go for 5 fragments from Champion Chase or and skip the Champion Training, the only kind of other big thing to be aware of, I think, is the fact that we got CvC at the end. So, if you do this Champion Training, I would save the main rank ups for CvC. I would do the rank ups around there. And then obviously in terms of Spider, you really want to be prioritizing Spider there as well. So if you did have to do the Champion Training, I would do most of the campaign farming on the Sunday and Monday, and then the rank ups on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then really focus Spider over CvC, which will also, by consequence, complete the Dungeon Divers. Annoyingly, I've just seen this should say Dungeon Diver number 2, but it doesn't. Oh, that's annoying. And I absolutely cannot be bothered to re-record this entire video with that being corrected. So the only other thing that I'll mention is that I have still saved these 3,000 energy we were given as part of the anniversary events, the appreciation rewards. And what I have been using to top up my DD1 are the free energy refills we get given on a daily basis. And also during last CvC, I bought 10 energy refills for the cost of 400 gems, because if I'm going to buy energy refills, I tend to do it during CvC just to get those small additional CvC points. And I knew that the reality is I was going to end up using them either in this fusion or in the next CvC. And if I was going to save it for the next CvC, I would end up using it in something like Minnow, or I'd have it already pre-purchased for something in the fusion that required some additional energy. And this Dungeon Diver 1 event certainly has. So I've used a lot of energy refills to get it done. But I still saved these 3 1,000 refills for now. We'll see when I end up using them. I think there's a good chance I'll end up using at least one of these during the next CvC to push harder in Spider or something along those lines, or even Minnow, to be honest. There's quite a few champions I want to get masteries on. So it will go to good use. I'll just save it until I see something that I think is worth using that additional resource for. In terms of the shards, I could easily do the Champion Chase right now. It's not really a problem. I do have enough stockpiled, but I'm still trying to be as efficient as possible. And for me, I think the better return on resources on my Sacred Shards will be coming from the Summon Rush. Now, that's not to say that everyone should do that. There are other ways of getting the Champion Chase points. For instance, you can summon past fragment fusions, which I have a fair collection for. I typically tend to save these for when I want to get some additional CvC points though. But not everyone is going to be in the same situation. So really, you have to make decisions based on how your account looks and what resources you have. I can merely tell you guys kind of how I'm approaching it within the context of my account, and try and talk you through my thought process and how I've come to those decisions. And hopefully that will help you then make your own decisions based on where your account is. So I think that's everything. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments, and I generally answer them all. Otherwise, please like, comment, and subscribe if these kind of videos are of interest to you. We have quite a number of videos out now on the channel, mostly focusing on secret rooms and faction wars, and then a few around account management. But I'll try and get a few more out over the next week or two. it's just, real life is somewhat demanding at the moment. So I'm struggling to find time to even do the game myself, let alone record videos for you guys. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.